A single touch lasting less than 3 seconds can flood a woman's brain with enough oxytocin to make her feel emotionally bonded to you for hours. That is not poetry. That is neuroscience. And yet most men have absolutely no idea which touches trigger that response, and which ones make a woman quietly decide she will never see them again. Today, I am going to tell you exactly which 7 touches change everything. And number 5, that one is almost unfair. Here is something most people will never tell you out loud. A mature woman does not fall in love with words. She has heard every compliment. She has read every sweet message. She has sat through every carefully planned evening where a man tried very hard to say exactly the right thing. Words stopped impressing her a long time ago. What actually moves her, what actually opens that guarded heart she has spent years carefully protecting, is something far more primal: touch. But not just any touch. Not the clumsy, rushed, uncertain kind of touch that communicates insecurity rather than connection. Specific, intentional, psychologically powerful touches that communicate things words literally cannot say. Safety, confidence, tenderness, genuine desire, all without opening your mouth. Dr. Dacher Keltner, a psychologist at UC Berkeley, conducted a fascinating study where strangers were asked to communicate emotions through brief touches on the forearm alone. No words, no facial expressions, just touch. The result? People could accurately identify emotions like gratitude, love, and sympathy through touch alone with up to 78% accuracy. 78%. Your words wish they were that effective. So, if you have ever wondered why some men effortlessly make women feel deeply connected to them, while others try everything and still cannot seem to build that bond, this is your answer. It is not about what they say. It is about how they touch. And a mature woman, a woman who has been through enough to know exactly what she wants, responds to this on an entirely different level. Now, before I walk you through all 7 of these touches, I need to warn you about something. 2 of the touches on this list seem so simple that you will be tempted to dismiss them. Do not. Those are the ones mature women have specifically described as the moments that changed how they felt about someone completely. And the final touch on this list has a psychological effect so significant that relationship therapists actually use it with couples on the edge of separation. I will explain exactly why when we get there. Let us begin. Touch number 1, the slow lower back guide. Before you think this is simply basic courtesy, hear the science behind it because it is remarkable. When you place your hand gently on the small of a woman's back, while walking her through a doorway, guiding her through a crowded space, standing beside her at an event, you are activating one of the most nerve-dense areas of the human body. The lower back contains a significant cluster of nerve endings directly connected to the brain's emotional processing centers. A slow, confident, warm hand placed there sends a signal that bypasses logic entirely. But here is where most men get this wrong. Speed and pressure matter enormously. A quick pat feels impersonal. A heavy push feels controlling. But a slow, steady, warm placement of your full palm with just enough presence to say, "I am here and I am aware of you," triggers what psychologists call a protective bonding response. Her nervous system reads it as safety, her brain releases oxytocin, and emotionally she begins associating your presence with calm. A mature woman responds to this especially deeply. She has spent years being the strong one. She has handled everything herself. She has been her own protector. When a man places his hand on her lower back with quiet confidence, it is not about control. It is about communication. It says, you do not have to carry everything alone right now. And for a woman who has been carrying the weight of her world on her own shoulders, that single gesture can feel more meaningful than 100 grand gestures combined. Touch number 2, the two-handed hold. Most people hold hands. That is not what I am describing. This is when you take her hand and bring your other hand over to cradle it gently. Both of your hands holding one of hers. Maybe during a quiet conversation. Maybe after she has said something vulnerable. Maybe in a moment of simple stillness between you. This touch works because of something called bilateral stimulation. When both your hands are engaged, it creates a symmetrical sensory experience that her brain interprets as full attention and complete emotional presence. For a mature woman, this is profoundly meaningful. She has likely spent years with people who were physically present, but emotionally somewhere else. Body at the table, mind elsewhere. When you hold her hand with both of yours and look at her while she is speaking, you are giving her something she may have stopped believing existed: full, undivided, completely embodied attention. And that contrast alone is what makes this so powerful. Once a mature woman's nervous system recognizes that difference, no other man can easily compete with the impression it leaves. Touch number 3, the forehead touch. Not a forehead kiss, though that is meaningful too. The gentle pressing of your forehead against hers, eyes closing naturally, breathing finding the same rhythm, the world going briefly quiet between you. This might seem overly intimate for something so simple, but the psychological weight of this gesture is significant. Dr. Sue Johnson, one of the most respected relationship researchers working today, has written extensively about what she calls bonding moments, micro interactions that activate the adult attachment system the same way a mother's touch activates it in an infant. The forehead touch is among the most potent bonding moments two people can share. Because it requires genuine vulnerability from both of you, you cannot do this from a distance. You have to slow down. You have to let your guard down completely. And for a mature woman who has built emotional walls high enough to protect herself from years of disappointment, this touch is a quiet, unhurried knock on a door she forgot she had. It does not demand anything. It does not push towards something else. It simply says, I am right here with you and nowhere else matters. A man who can offer this without rushing it, without filling the silence with nervous conversation, without turning vulnerability into something uncomfortable, that man has just communicated more emotional intelligence than most people demonstrate across an entire relationship. Touch number 4, the back of the neck. The nape of the neck is one of the most sensitive and vulnerable areas on the human body. It is filled with nerve endings, and because it is an area a person cannot easily see or protect, touching it creates an immediate and simultaneous response of both trust and warmth. That combination is rare. Most touches create one or the other. This one does both at the same time. When a man gently places his fingers or palm on the back of a woman's neck, maybe while sitting beside her, maybe while leaning in to say something quietly, her brain moves through a rapid evaluation. Am I safe? Do I trust this person? Does this feel right? And when all three answers are yes, dopamine and oxytocin release together, which is precisely the neurochemical combination responsible for deep romantic attachment. A mature woman recognizes immediately what this touch communicates: confidence without aggression, genuine warmth without desperation, familiarity without assumption. It is one of the most emotionally sophisticated touches a man can offer. One important note: timing matters enormously with this one. This is not a touch for early acquaintance. It works because it follows established trust. It is a natural progression of genuine connection, not a shortcut toward it. And a mature woman understands that distinction immediately. Touch number 5, the one I told you about at the beginning, the thumb stroke. This happens when you are already holding her hand, or when your hand rests on her arm, shoulder, or knee, and without drawing any attention to it, your thumb moves slowly back and forth against her skin. Small, slow, rhythmic. You do not announce it. You do not look down at what your hand is doing. You simply continue whatever conversation you are in. This works because of a specific class of nerve fibers that respond exclusively to slow, gentle stroking touch, and are directly wired to the parts of the brain that process emotional closeness and social bonding. Researchers found that this type of slow stroking activates the region of the brain responsible for feelings of intimacy and emotional nearness. In other words, when your thumb moves slowly across her skin, you are directly activating the part of her brain that makes her feel close to you. And because it is so subtle, she may not consciously register what you are doing, but her brain absolutely registers it. Her body absolutely responds to it. And emotionally, she begins feeling drawn toward you in ways she may not be able to fully articulate. A mature woman who feels this, a woman who has experienced years of relationships where affection was either performed or absent, will feel that small, unhurried thumb stroke and think, he does not even realize he is doing it. This is simply how he is. And that belief that your tenderness feels effortless rather than calculated is what creates the deepest kind of falling. Not grand gestures, not expensive evenings. The unconscious, gentle movement of your thumb while you are talking about something completely ordinary. That is what genuine love feels like to a woman who has seen everything else. Touch number 6, the silent pull. This is the moment when you are sitting or standing beside her, and without a word, you reach over and gently draw her closer to you. Your arm finding her shoulder and pulling her in. Your hand at her waist, closing the space between you. No announcement, no "come here." Just quiet, unhurried movement. This works on a principle attachment researchers call proximity seeking. In attachment theory, one of the clearest signs of genuine secure bonding is the instinctive desire to reduce physical distance. When you pull her closer without being asked, you are communicating through action what words can only approximate. The space between us felt like too much. I wanted you nearer. For a mature woman, this carries enormous emotional weight. Many women who have reached their 40s and beyond have spent years feeling as though closeness had to be earned, that they had to be a particular version of themselves to deserve genuine affection. When a man pulls her close simply because he wants her near, not because he is initiating something, not because he is performing for anyone watching, simply because her presence beside him felt more right than the distance, it quietly rewrites a story she has been telling herself for a very long time. It tells her she is wanted, not for what she provides, not for what she does, simply for existing beside him. Touch number 7. The one I saved for last because it carries more genuine psychological weight than everything else on this list combined. The long hold. Not a quick squeeze between acquaintances, not the brief, polite embrace that says, I acknowledge you are here. Both arms, chest to chest, full presence, held for a minimum of 20 seconds. That number is specific for an important reason. Research published in a leading psychology journal found that hugs lasting 20 seconds or longer trigger a meaningful release of oxytocin, while simultaneously reducing cortisol, the primary stress hormone. This means a long hold does not simply make a woman feel warmth in the moment. It literally reduces her stress at a biological level. Her heart rate slows, her blood pressure drops, her nervous system shifts from the state of constant readiness that most people carry into the state where genuine bonding and emotional openness become naturally possible. This is why relationship therapists recommend extended physical holding for couples working to rebuild emotional trust. It is not a metaphor or a feel-good suggestion. It is a supported, researched, clinically observed response. Now, here is why this matters so deeply for a mature woman specifically. By the time a woman reaches her 40s, 50s, or beyond, she has likely navigated loss, heartbreak, loneliness she kept mostly to herself, and the quiet exhaustion of being strong for everyone around her. She has learned to hold herself together with such discipline that most people around her do not realize how much she is carrying. She has become her own support system, not because she wanted to, because she had to. When you wrap both arms around that woman and you stay, not for a polite 2 seconds, not for just long enough to feel like you tried, but for a full, unhurried, genuine embrace that communicates, I am not letting go until you are ready, something shifts inside her that she cannot control and did not expect. Every wall she carefully built, every protective instinct she developed over years of experience, every quiet voice telling her to remain guarded, all of it softens, not because she is weak, but because for the first time in a very long time, she does not have to be strong. And that is the most powerful thing a touch can do. Not simply excite her, not simply impress her, relieve her. Give her permission to stop holding everything together for just one unhurried moment. If you can be the man who offers her that, she will not simply feel attracted to you, she will choose you, deliberately, repeatedly, and with every part of herself that she has been carefully protecting from the wrong people for years. So there you have them, 7 touches, each grounded in psychology and the genuine experience of women who have lived enough to know exactly what real connection feels and does not feel like. And the truth that connects all 7 is the same. None of these require money, status, or perfect circumstances. They require only one thing: the willingness to slow down, to be genuinely present with the person in front of you, to let your touch communicate what your words cannot. That is not a technique. That is simply what it looks like when a man decides to truly show up.